But your thoughts will soon be wandering the way they always do. When you're riding 16 hours, there's nothing much to do. And you don't feel much like riding, you just wish the trip was through. Here I am on the road again. There I am.
Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Charge to Keep, the official podcast of Rio Hondo Prep Football. We are ready for the road, the first road trip of the season for the Cares, as they will travel over 100 miles to Boron, California. It is way up there, 395, as you're headed towards, well, Victorville, then go a little west of it and head north, still headed towards, Bishop and all those places. But anyway, it's where the Cares will be headed tomorrow night, 7 o'clock kickoff in Boron, California, in the high desert. Going to be mighty warm, I'm sure, like it has been down here in Southern California. But I know the Cares are up for the challenge, get out of school and hit the road. So many memories on great road trips with Rio Hondo Prep over the years, playing football for the Cares. It's just kind of a badge of honor. You get your frequent flyer miles, if you know what I mean, traveling for Rio Hondo Prep, playing schools in the middle of nowhere, it seems. But I know the school that they're playing this week in Boron is rather special school, a special friendship. Rivalry, yes, but a friendly one for sure. Mutual respect by both teams here. This upcoming for the week 3 matchup here. These schools have played each other every year for quite some time. I want to say over 10 years now. And it is a big part of who I'm bringing on the podcast today. I am going to be joined here shortly by the head coach of Boron, Mr. Rob Kostopoulos, and I hope I said his name right. I'm going to call him Coach Rob probably throughout the interview here. But last week we heard from the Linfield coach, Deshaun Burns. That was a privilege chatting with him, and another privilege today, chatting with the opposing coach of the team, giving him an opportunity to talk about this special relationship with Rio Hondo Prep, why they play each other every year. Schools over 100 miles apart that are just there's mutual respect there. And also it's a chance for Coach Rob to talk about his program, the Boron Bobcats, and how they're doing and expectations for them and kind of where the growth of their program has gone. So I thought with my little pregame shows here on Thursdays, usually releasing these 24 hours before kickoff. So tonight at 7 o'clock, this will be released in anticipation for our week 3 matchup with Boron. I was just going to talk a little bit about my keys to the game, my thoughts and what to expect. But it's also cool when we get to bring on someone who's associated with the program we're about to face. So I thought, well, let's reach out to Coach Rob through Coach Mark Carson, who had nothing but great things to say about Coach Rob. And I said, hey, do you think the Boron coach would do it? And he said, yeah, I'll give him your number or you can have his number. I texted Coach Rob. He was so thrilled that I asked him that I was reaching out. He just so much excitement. I've never met this man, but I'm very excited to chat with him. Anyone who loves football like I do, I don't care where they're from, who they coach, who they play for. I love just having a conversation, and it's a blast to kind of preview these games, right? We're about to go to war with this guy on Friday night. And my goal is that when this podcast ends, all the listeners are like, man, I really like that guy. I want to beat him. I want to beat him on Friday night. But you know what? There's some great people in this great game of football, and just the mutual respect. Again, Coach Carson has mad respect for Coach Rob, and vice versa from what it sounds like. So let's get his take on it, since the boys will be on a bus trip here soon on Friday afternoon. That is kind of the tribute there with the On the Road Again, the Turn the Page song there by Metallica. As I've told you guys before, we're kind of implementing music throughout our episodes. It's kind of symbolism and such. So just a little fun thing for me to do. But what I'm very much looking forward to right now is talking with the head coach of the Boron Bobcats. Let's bring him on the program. It is my privilege to bring to you Coach Rob Kostopoulos. All right, it is now my privilege to be joined by the head coach of the Boron Bobcats, Mr. Rob Kostopoulos. Coach, I'll probably call you Coach Rob because I think Coach K is already taken.
Yeah, that was my father.
Outstanding. Hey, Rob, thank you so much for doing this. This is unique. It's a special relationship you guys have with Rio Hondo, and it's really cool that you're willing to come on here on the podcast, talk a little bit about the rivalry and the upcoming game on Friday night.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I'm glad to do this.
Coach Rob, how long have you been the head coach at Boron now?
So I took over in 2014 for what was a transition between Todd Fink, who had coached for a long time. I think Todd did 10 plus years. I was on his staff for 8 of those. I took over in 2014, went all the way to 2020 with that. During the COVID year, I stepped out. So last year's head coach was a 1-year head coach. After COVID, I went with youth football. I went to our youth program and coached my 2 little youngest sons. I have a 3rd grader and a 5th grader. I just didn't really know if I wanted to coach during that COVID season. I saw all of the craziness going on, and I stepped away. And after last season, just realized how much I missed it and just wanted to be back. So here I am, man. I'm back. So yeah, 2014 was my first year head coaching, but I joined the staff in 2006 as an assistant coach.
Oh, wow. Okay. And Coach, there's something to be said. Sometimes there's a little more pressure in those 3rd and 5th grade games than Friday Night Lights.
Big time. But I had a great time. Honestly, I'd like to believe that coaching youth football and also COVID, stepping away from things and being really family based. I think I'm a lot more patient, kind of found my positive stride, not that I was ever too negative, but just kind of a different outlook on the way to approach the game and approach kids in general. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I want to touch on that. As far as youth football program, small town like Boron, do you guys have a tackle program? Do you attribute kind of the success of your program to the fact that you guys do have youth football? Because not every city or town has that anymore.
Yes, I absolutely say that youth football has been one of our biggest strong points. Yes, kids playing, and that's controversial right now, man. There's a lot of people, you even got NFL players saying that we shouldn't be tackling at such a young age. We should do a lot of flags. Hey, this conversation could go sideways real quick, right? But yes, a big, I would say probably the biggest part of our success is the fact that yes, our kids play youth football in a small town, play together their whole lives, come up into high school. We know each other for the majority of it. They know the system. They know the coaches. They know us. There's not a big transition at all.
No, and that's so important. I mean, you see that in other parts of the country, in states like Texas, football is, bigger than religion there. And, but you have that small town feel, you have the kids as youngsters rising up the ranks. I think that's something that Rio Hondo Prep has had an advantage of, really, is having kids play on those fields, even watching the Rio Hondo kids, the Care Youth League there playing in youth tackle football. I think the Rio Hondo junior high program is the only junior high program in the San Gabriel Valley that plays tackle. So there's a lot of advantages there. There's Pop Warner, there's other youth programs, but I do think playing football at a young age and kind of building to get to those Friday Night Lights is special and unique to the game of football.
Yeah, and football IQ in general is so important. So the younger you start the game, because that's tough. If you're a freshman in high school that's never played football, and we have a couple of those. Actually, on our current team, we have 2 seniors who have never played football and decided to come out to football their senior year. Football IQ is a big thing, right? That's a big deal. Just understanding space awareness is humongous.
Oh yeah, running around, putting the helmet on, like, wait, where's this go? Where's that go? That's a big part. I mean, those are things you kind of get out of the way early on. But let me ask you about, because I've seen it. I used to officiate football for 10, 11 years out here, and we saw a decline in attendance from not fans, but players, I should say, roster sizes. How has over the past 10 years or so with the Boron program, because you're not seeing a ton of participation in other schools, even schools that have thousands of kids?
Well, it's hit us even. So just a heads up, we played our first JV game last Friday in 7 years. The only reason why we're not playing a JV game with Rio is during the summer, we didn't think we were going to pull it off. We just did not see the numbers. We were under 25 for pretty much the whole summer. And so I gave Mark, obviously we're friends, so we were texting all summer, and I told him, I said, hey, JV football just is not looking good. And at first, even Mark didn't know what he was going to pull off. And then late, big influx of freshmen came in. He's playing JV football. we are now, but I got to him too late. He had already scheduled a game. But that hit us too, man. So that's pretty crazy to think that a school that loves football like we do, we just played our first JV game last Friday in 7 years.
Wow. Well, I mean, it's sad in a way, but hey, that's a big step. That's great. That's great for the program to get kids out there playing early. And you and Rio have very similar issues, we'll say, this year, which we will get into with, just the age of your players and such. But let me go back to, you said 2006 when you started coaching at Boron. Did you coach anywhere before that? Are you from Boron? Talk to me a little bit about you.
So one of the things we love about Rio that I think we've always loved about Rio, just like us, alumni. So I'm an alumni at Boron High. I graduated Boron High in 97. I actually went away. I went to Cal State San Bernardino to play baseball down there. I played for Coach Don Parnell, man, love the guy. I would go to war for that guy. And I was one of those guys that, hey, I was going to live in the city. I wanted to see what the city was about. And then I got to about 2004-ish and just, I wanted to come home. Just decided, hey, I want to come home. But most of my time in San Bernardino, when I was at Bloomington High School and some other schools, I did all baseball. I coached all baseball. But when obviously coming back home from Boron, I played football at Boron High. My dad was the head coach back in the day in the 90s. Okay. So I jumped on the staff, immediately built a bond with Todd Fink. I actually have a current two of my current assistants now are alumni of Boron High. One of my other coaches, Jason Boyette, he coached back in 06 with us. So I've got another assistant coach that was with kind of that older regime. So that's typical Boron, and that's one of the things we loved about Rio as well. You got a bunch of alumni on Rio's staff, right? Guys come home. They're proud of Rio Hondo. They want to be a part of what Rio Hondo does. That's a lot like us. That's so immediately, man, once we kind of realized who Rio was and what Rio was about, we got a quick shot that, like, man, these guys are a lot like us. Like, let's keep this thing going.
That is awesome to hear. And, Coach Parnell at I umpired plenty of his games there at Fiscalini Field. What a great guy
I gave up a lot of home runs at that field. I gave up some bombs, actually.
Well, it had to be the altitude or the air or something there, right, Rob, or something like that?
Absolutely. It had nothing to do with my velocity.
Oh man, good times. Well, let's talk about the relationship a little more. You said these guys are a lot like us. What exactly, I don't know, was it one thing that jumped out to you guys? Let's go back to the beginning.
It's a bunch of things. We saw a program a lot like us. Number one, hey, Rio's floating around 100 kids. You know what I mean? So, and Boron's always floating around 200 kids. So immediately, size-wise, we liked just the size matchup immediately. Then when you came out and kind of kicked our butt in 08, we said, okay, these guys play a style of football that we appreciate. Physical. They play hard. They don't stop. The one thing I've always appreciated about Rio kids, they don't care which side of the scoreboard they're on. They're playing the game. So we picked up on that right away. Hey, I'll tell you what, when Mark was an assistant coach, that dude was about as fiery and hot-headed as you could ever see. And we're like that. So we're sitting on the other sidelines going like, dude, these guys, they're just like us. Then you start dissecting the program, right? You're constantly doing more with less, right? You talk about guys that achieve kind of above really what we're supposed to achieve at. Then you start looking at, okay, Rio's playing this. Rio, they're not scared to play people. They'll play basically, now listen, we're not going to go play St. John Bosco modern day. But you look at our divisions and you look at 2 and 3 divisions up around us, we started noticing, okay, Rio is challenging themselves. They're putting themselves in good spots. Same thing we try to do. So the more that we really investigated, like, who the heck is Rio Hondo, we were realizing, like, these guys are exactly the way we do things. And there's some things that we like that we wanted to be a part of. A huge thing that we found out I think we found out in around 2009, we were, so Todd Fink at the time, head coach, and Ken Drain became excellent friends, really built a friendship. Mark and myself as assistant coaches just slowly started talking. And then we really realized, man, he's a family man. I'm a family man. You're an alumni. I'm an alumni. You're proud to be there. We're proud to be here. We became friends. But what we found at the time was how many boys are involved in your football program. We found out a secret that, like, okay, just because you don't want to play football, maybe you want to be an athletic trainer. Maybe you want to be on the film crew, right? Maybe you want all of these things. we found out how much diversity you guys were creating in the program, and we were just blown away. We just thought that was just amazing.
Yeah, there's always a way to contribute. It could be anything, and that's kind of the evolution of the podcast here. Is like let's try to bring alumni and stuff together. If you would talk, you said in 2008. If we were talking off air, that was a big year for Boron. I think you guys were ranked 1 or number 2, very high ranking in the playoffs that year.
We really thought we had something cooking. I'm going to tell you right now, like that was we might even have let our arrogance get to us a bit that year. We thought we had something. We really thought we had a good mix. We thought the chemistry and everything was right. And Rio came out and basically said, no, you don't have it.
Had you heard of Rio Hondo before that, or did you know there was some 8-man program?
You know, we did some homework. We knew that in 8-man you guys dominated. We knew there was a lot of championships and a lot of banners on the wall. And we looked at who you guys played. Like I'm not saying we overlooked Rio. We knew it was going to be a challenge. We didn't know that it was going to be 42-14. We didn't know. We didn't know that on our field that night in the second round of the playoffs that's the way it would go.
That was a big win for the school, big time. I think that era really from 04 to 2013 was a special era in the 11-man time for Rio. And Coach, you guys returned the favor to Rio a few years later in a frigid playoff game up at your place, low scoring game. What year was that? 2010 maybe?
So that was 2010. We actually were. I don't think people can say a lot that they've done this to Rio. That was a year we got them twice. We got them in preseason and we got them in the semi. So and I can proudly say that there's not a lot of local high schools that can say they got Rio twice in one season. that doesn't happen to you guys. I bet if you really take back the history books, that's not something that happens to Rio.
No, that's a great point. And I remember, it's hard to beat any team twice, but when I think going into that game, we were very much like, okay, things didn't go right the first game. It's going to be a challenge, but we're ready. And it was like 6-6 going in the fourth quarter, a frigid night. Rio was driving for the game-winning score, and I think we threw a pick six to end the game, which is such a weird way to lose a game, but it's got to be a fun way to win it.
It was intense, man. So I was up in the crow's nest that night, and it was intense. I mean, it was a war. It was a dogfight. Both defenses really showed up to play that night. I attribute that to basically we felt like we knew what they were going to do. Rio Hondo 100% felt like they knew what we were going to do, and man, it was a tough night. You know what I mean? But the pick six was I just remember the place just going crazy, just absolutely just going crazy.
It was a 36-28 win for you guys in September against us, and then we went up there and it was 14-6. So you were right about the defenses. I remember we scored a touchdown that we threw Ryan Horton, I think, caught a pass. I don't know how anyone caught a ball that night. It was so cold. But then what a backbreaker for us and just jubilation for you guys winning that game.
Yeah. Now we had to go up and face Bishop, so it was even colder the next Friday up there, and we lost a championship game 30-22, but it was a dogfight. Bishop there for about 2 years in a row. Bishop was loaded as well. So you had Boron Rio. Really, we did know in those couple of years right there, that 2010, 2011-ish time, we knew that Rio, Boron, or Bishop, that was where it was at. One of the version of one of those three was in that time period was going to do it. Your guys' 2012 season though was just. And you had just dudes. You guys were special. So that the year you beat Mission Prep, right? 2012.
Yeah.
Prep. That's your play. We were there. We drove down to that game, and that was. I mean, your 2012 team they were special. That was a special group of kids.
What was incredible about those guys is they beat Arcadia week 1, week 0, whatever, and really beat them up, dominated them, and Rios wanted to play big public schools in the area for so long. The next week they get blown out by that Mission Prep team. And then it was so satisfying years later, or at the end of the season in the championship, to turn those 40 points around and to beat those guys. So yeah, that was a special group of guys. That's so cool. You guys drove down for that game.
Oh yeah. So, hey, one of the things that where Boron and Rio, now we have a relationship. Mark and I are great friends. Todd and Coach Drain were great friends. But I'm going to tell you right now, there's been some years where the Rio Boron thing got super competitive and even had a taste for some flair from fan wise. So when we would come, so I think we went and scouted one year too. You guys were playing Big Bear, and we sat on the Rio side, and because we didn't want to sit on the Big Bear side, so we sat on the Rio side in a preseason game. And man, the Rio fans were, I wondered if we were going to get out of there that day. I thought, guys, we might want to leave mid third quarter. I don't know that we're really well liked down here. You know what I mean? No, a crew of us drove down and we watched that mission prep, and we were 100% cheering for you guys at the time. We kind of felt like mission prep was wrongly placed in that division and didn't think that they belonged in that division. So that's one of the things where 100% myself and Mark, we have always bonded together on, not knocking CIF anyway. I love those guys, especially the Southern section. I got a lot of history with Mr. Wygod and his crew, but there's been some matchups sometimes where if you're a small school guy, you questioned that bracket for sure. I'll just say that. I won't go any further than that, but and that was one of those matchups we thought, man, mission prep, I don't know, and Rio got him and took it to him. And so and it was raining and it was muddy and we were down there, man. We were right there in the mix cheering like we were, from Rio almost, So we were just as happy for you guys in that game as anything else,
Oh man, well, chalk one up for the little guys. That was a special time, and yeah, it's the feelings mutual. Despite that experience with the fans, maybe I mean the Rio guys are pulling for you guys for sure, and your success.
Well, hey, our kids have gotten it after it a couple times. I think it was the 2011 season. In 2011, our coach Todd Fink, he did it, and he knew he was poking the bear. He had made some kind of comment in a local newspaper that he felt like the road. He said a comment like the road to the ring comes through Boron, meaning like, hey, if you want to hang a banner in your gym, you're coming through us. Well, knocks us out of the playoffs that year, beats us. Okay. The next year, right, Rio beats Mission Prep, wins the CIF title. So in 2012, who do we draw in the basketball playoffs at Boron? We draw Rio Hondo in basketball. So what is the whole basketball team? Because, hey, the football team is the basketball team, then they're the baseball team, right? Rio and Boron share that in common. So Rio's kids' basketball team come out that season, and they're wearing their CIF championship T-shirts from football. So they're warming up in pregame. Ken Drain's the basketball coach. We're sitting in the stands and we're like, these sons of guns came out here in their CIF championship tee. And I knew what it was. That was telling Todd Fink, like, okay, a ring comes through Boron, huh? So there's been some intense, but it's like, hey, that's all in good fun. You know what I mean? That's what high school athletics is supposed to be like. Let's get after it. Let's even talk a little trash. Hey, they came out, showed us who got the ring that year. But we took it as like, oh yeah, hey, once again, these guys are built a lot like us. Like we actually appreciated the humor of what the basketball team was doing. Like we understood it, we knew it, and we asked for it. You know what I mean?
That's fantastic. Gamesmanship, man. And we need more of this. Some people get all offended these days, and it's just like, dude, come on. This is all in fun. It's all in respect, no ill will. So that's a great story. Wow. It's really funny stuff. You guys have made the jump from the Southern section to the Central section. What was the reasoning behind that? And does it help you travel at all?
We loved the Southern section. If you want my dead honest, complete opinion, we had no intention of ever leaving. And sometimes I look back at, the Central, I'm not 100% certain is any better. The Central section is actually smaller in the amount of schools, which caused some really difficult matchups. We've had some matchup with some big boys. We left the Southern section because at the time, our league, the league we played in, everybody went 8-man. Mojave, Mammoth, Desert Christian. Hey, you guys beat Desert Christian in a CIF championship one year. All of these schools were in our league. They all bailed. They went 8-man. They, for whatever reason, there was numbers issues, or they were tired of some of the matchups they were getting, whatever their issue was, everybody went 8-man. So our league fell apart around 2013, somewhere around that time. I'll tell you a real crazy story. I don't know if Ken or Mark told you this. We tried to join your league. And at the time, it was Rio Hondo, it was Pasadena Poly, it was Trinity Classical Academy. and I can't remember the fourth school for the life of me right now. But we tried to join. We did not want to leave the southern section. We definitely there was no way we were going 8-man. What do? I called my buddies and say, hey man, we need a league. I can't go freelance, right? Because at the time that was a death sentence. There was no way to make the playoffs. You could go 10-0 like that Brethren Christian. You weren't in. So you got to get a league. We actually went to a league meeting with those teams. And Rio, what was awesome was Rio and Pasadena Poly said, yes, absolutely. Let Boron in. These are great matchups. It was Trinity Classical, and the other school at the time voted no. So it went to a 2-2 tie. And the mediator said, hey, it ended up saying no, but Rio was pulling for us. Pasadena Poly was pulling for us. So honestly, what's crazy, we would have stayed southern section, and even crazier, we might have been a league opponent of Rio. So you want to talk about building some stuff right there. That would have been amazing. We get voted out. To add insult to injury, the very next year, Trinity Classical and that other school bail because they were getting their butts kicked, right? They're getting beat up. And so we had already made the move to the central section. And yeah, the gist of it is that our league fell apart. Everybody went 8-man. We stayed 11-man. We had no place to go. And so the only place to go was kind of go old school, Bishop, Kern Valley, Roseman. Back in the 80s and 90s, that used to be our league before we separated. We were in league with them anyways. Well, so we rejoined, and the only way to do that was to jump sections.
Wow, this is like leaving the Pac-12 to the Big Ten. Like this is like just like that type of talk.
And it got controversial. I'm going to tell you right now, while we were trying to stay at the time, man, we were reaching, and we were trying, and we were politicking, and we were doing all those things, and it just didn't work. And the biggest thing is I get it. We're, like you said, we're 100 miles away, right? Do you really want to have to travel 100 miles for a basketball game on a Tuesday, a baseball game on a Thursday? So it really just came down to that. I don't think Trinity Classical or those other guys, I don't think they had a problem with us. I think they had a problem with location.
Sure. No, that's definitely what it sounds like.
Rio and Pasadena was just willing to say, hey, this is a good fit. Like, let's get these guys. Let's do this,
Wow. But it's not like a Bishop that's not around the corner from you guys.
No. And Mark and those guys will tell you the drive to Boron, honestly, again, you got to catch some of your freeways at the right time, but the drive to Boron, it's not bad. You're there a lot faster than you think you're going to be. So once you get there, it's just talking people into like, hey, make the trip, see what the trip's like first, and that's one of the things we loved about Rio right away. That doesn't bother them that at all. They want to play. And even on the years where it's been kind of lopsided in Rio's favor, they enjoy the matchup. We enjoy the matchup. So I always appreciated that about Mark and Ken at the time too. They politicked for us as well. Ken was calling the other schools that were a no vote. Ken was doing everything he could to get us in the league with you guys.
Interesting.
But just kind of fell flat. So we had to go somewhere.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you guys are doing just fine, and I'm glad the rivalry is alive and well. I want to read to you. I got a statement from Coach Carson. I said, hey, what's a statement for on the Boron program that I can relay to Coach Rob, even though you'll see him tomorrow. Coach Carson said, Boron is a great program and has a tradition of tough, hard-nosed football. They're always well coached. It's fun to play out there because the town comes out and they're well supported. We have had some really fun games with them. That
is 100% what I would say right back. Yes.
It's so unique because it's with small schools football, you get two different types of schools. You get a small private school, or you get a very small public school that's, out in a rural area, like you guys are also. It's a unique matchup. We traveled to some places over the years, man. It's like, wow, what's the school out here? But so talk to me about that dynamic, if you would, Rob, the small public schools versus the small private schools, because I think it's a level playing field in small school football.
It's a super level playing field. When you hear people complain of the private school, mumbo jumbo stuff. Oh, it's $30,000 to get in there, and they get this and they get that. Once you actually go and play now listen, some of those larger privates, yes, that mumbo jumbo is real. You do not want to match up with them. They are getting the elite of the elite, and they have resources that no one can match. Okay. But on the small side, it is a level playing field. It is. And I agree with that statement because, really at the end of the day, what are you guys drawing from that anybody else isn't drawn from anyways? You know what I mean? You guys, Rio, we can even talk Chadwick, you know, you can bring Pasadena Poly into this mix. You know what I mean? You're drawing a different type of kid anyways. I don't feel like there's any benefit to them being private versus us being small public. I know that answer isn't the most dynamic answer in the world, but once we started playing all you guys, we felt the same way. Like the playing field is level. You're doing more with less. You have challenges just like we all have challenges. The specific type of kid that's drawn to your school anyways, you know what I mean? Like you're dealing with issues just like us. And then the difficult thing is finding those matchups. Just because you're small and private doesn't necessarily mean that you can just go get a game with anybody you want to. You know, you still have the same concerns we have. Do you match up physically? Is this a game where we got to worry about players' safety? Things like that. You guys are dealing with those exact same concerns. You are.
It's so interesting to me when you hear about schools like, oh, they didn't have enough to field a team this year or whatever. And it's like, I'm not talking JVs, I'm talking varsity, because it's like, I still believe that Rio Hondo is still the smallest enrollment, at least in California, that plays 11-man football.
100% you are.
And it's just like, how are these other schools always having this excuse when you got Rio teams that sometimes aren't even able to even scrimmage 11-on-11 in practice?
That's us. And I think the biggest thing, it's culture. Your guys' culture is phenomenal. What you guys have as pride and respect, you have, and your non-negotiable items as far as behaviors, and what your program is founded on. Other schools don't have that, right? They just don't. They don't have that culture. And another big thing is coach turnover. You know, that's a big deal, man. If you know, you look at Rio, it has stayed consistent for the most part. Boron, we have stayed consistent. We've had a head coach change here and there, but a version of an assistant coach or a couple of assistant coaches or some alumni players coming back, we've stayed pretty consistent. Those bigger schools have culture issues, they have pride issues, and they have coach turnover. And then next thing you know, who wants to play football? You know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's something that'll probably always stay the same at Rio. Is every coach on that staff is an alumni and probably always will be that way. So not every school is able to do that. You guys have done a great job with it, as you said. Coach, you talked a lot about Rio Hondo, but as we kind of wrap it up here, if you would talk to me about the Boron football program, maybe the history. Go ahead and brag about your program, kind of where it's been, where it's at, where you want it to be, all the above about the Boron Bobcats.
I think the biggest thing that we can brag about is that it's been this way since the 60s. So we had a CIF championship in 69. We had back-to-back 93, 94, and then we had a 98 championship. So it's been a while. We're on a banner drought for sure. But the one thing that I can always say that has stayed consistent is that Mark understands about us is we 100% are trying our absolute best to play for our community. Like that matters to us. That's a big deal for us. We want our community to be proud of us. We want the community to be proud of our kids. We want the community to be proud of the school. You know, and listen, we're moving into the future where complaining is becoming normal. Cancer culture is real. So it's harder to please people. It is. But the one thing I will hang my hat on is we think of our community first. We do. We really do. And we always have. When we play on a Friday night, no matter what that score is, we want the stands and the fans to be proud of the way we played the game, more so to speak, right? So we don't sit and talk about obviously, hey, everybody wants to win. We want to win more than we lose. We spend a great deal of time though about the way you play the game, the effort. We're based off of effort. That doesn't mean we're perfect. We've got some laziness sometimes. That's just teenage boys, right? But I think the biggest bragging point is from that 69 championship team all the way to where we are currently. We have always made community a big deal. We want to play for them. We want past guys that have worn the uniform, a lot of the alumni guys, we want them to be proud of us. That matters to us. That has a place for us. And I think that's what's special and unique to us. That's obviously what's special and unique to Rio. Those things matter, right? Those values, they matter. They mean something.
No, that's I was going to say it sounds very familiar, and it's very well said. And being in a smaller town, is it kind of like we seen on TV where you're at a grocery store or something, and you got kind of the civilians looking at you and being like, "How could you run that fourth down play?" Going to coffee
Hey, dude,
shops and stuff.
I'm gonna shit. It doesn't even take it to the grocery store. They're usually telling us that on the way to the locker room.
Oh,
So,
man.
so yeah, so it is very, yes, it is very real, right? So I think I remember before they made the TV series, remember when they made the Friday Night Lights movie with Billy Bob Thornton, right?
Yeah.
And remember, like the board members are coming to tell him like what he should do on third down and what he should say. Hey, and you need like, hey, that's coaching in Boron, brother. That is what coaching in Boron is like. It is like that. That is real.
That's fantastic. One of the best quotes I've ever heard is pressure is a privilege. And
Yes.
you know what? I'm sure it sounds like that there for you. Real quick, what's the enrollment of the school roughly and the
So I think currently today we're under 230. I think we're at like 227. So and hey, just a heads up, that is counting our 7th and 8th grade class. That's I mean, like so we're right there, man. We're right there.
We can relate. How many in the town? What's the capacity roughly?
If you caught me a couple of years ago, I would say under 3,000, but sounds crazy. We have had some development out here lately. There's some things happening. So I think we're over 3,000 now, but we are still a very small community.
Awesome. Well, we are kind of a small community within the huge LA County area. And we got 4 seniors that play football, 4 of our 5, and then 5 juniors, and then it's a freshman, sophomore. So we have that in common as well. You got a very young team. We
do. And now we've got some good seniors, and we're proud of them. And they're big. Like we've got some big boys, and we love them, and they're very prideful kids. But yes, the majority of our team, we are young. We are super young, and we're doing everything we can to make those guys ready for that jump.
Yeah, and I could tell you that talking to our alumni and fans and everything, everyone understands, hey, the future is bright. It's going to be great, but we're worried about right now. Let's win some games.
Well, that's the big thing too with young kids. You can't hang your hat, right? You can't go. The worst thing you can do is go into a post-game speech. Let's say you lose a game. The worst thing you can do with young team is go into a post-game speech and complain about how young you are. No, we have to play now. You can't hang your hat on being young. You got to play now. And they got to know that you trust their ability and you support them too. So that stuff is a big deal, right? Young guys have to feel supported, and they have to know you believe them. And we believe in our young guys. We're putting the ball in their hands and we're asking them to make plays. Just it is what it is.
Absolutely. Well, Coach Rob, I am looking forward to this game tomorrow night, like I am every year. But after getting to talk to you, it's really, the cliche, a shame one of us has to lose, but we're going to get out there and compete, and it'll be another great Rio Hondo Boron matchup.
Absolutely. And I'm excited to see Mark, man. Me and him have bonded over the years. He's a good dude, and we appreciate each other's time. Actually, Mark and his brother, we played when I was the varsity baseball coach. We started playing each other basically see Mark, say what's up, see how things are going. Like, so we even caught a couple baseball games, Boron versus Rio. They've been to us. We've been down there, so this is a good friendship of mine. And trust me, he wants to win bad. I want to win bad, but like, we just enjoy each other's company, a lot of mutual respect back and forth. So I'm actually even just excited to see my friend, shake his hand, kind of talk a little bit, catch up, and then get down to business.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the beauty of football. Let's get after it. And it's a big reason I want to do this is bring on some other coaches and people on other teams to be like, hey, we're all in this together. We're competing, but there's some great friendships and memories along the way. Coach Rob, can't thank you enough, man. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow night.
Absolutely. Absolutely, man. And anything you need when you get out there, I know Mark said they're coming around 5. Anything you need, I'm there. Find me. Take care of you guys. Okay.
Sounds great. Sounds great, Coach. See you then.
Thank you, brother. Have a good day.
Wow. I am blown away by the professionalism, by the just all around great dude that Coach Rob was. I heard great things, but until you really meet someone, you just, man, I don't know. You don't know what to expect. So Coach Rob Kostopoulos, what a great guy. What a great program, the Boron Bobcats. I know this podcast is about Rio Hondo prep football, but we got to dive into these other programs and the relationships and why they exist. What's the background of them, and just the mutual respect, I think, is something that cannot go unnoticed, and really with a relationship that long, Rio knocking Boron out of the playoffs when they were a big time high ranked team. Boron beating us in the playoffs, beating us twice in one season. I mean, this is a real special rivalry, and Rio's probably won more than they've lost, but there's a reason these two schools play every year and make that trip. And there is that mutual respect. So I love talking again to great people, great football people. And man, I'll say this, Boron football is in great hands, and Rio is up for a real big test on Friday night up in the high desert against a well-coached football team with great tradition. So this is going to be fun, man. Every week, it seems like there's a new storyline, a new opponent. And I can promise you this is not the last time Coach Rob will be on the Charge to Keep podcast. I'm getting him back on maybe as a unbiased predictor of games or breaking down analysis. I don't know. We're going to have him back on, I think, throughout the podcast, and definitely anytime that the Cares take on the Bobcats. So I'm ready. I'm gonna go gas up my car right now and get the sucker ready to go and head up there. I'll be up there well before 5, get a bite to eat, and embrace that high desert heat. Can't wait for the game. Can't wait for it. Week 3 matchup, Boron Bobcats against the Rio Hondo Prep Cares. Let's do this, guys. Let's do this. Long bus trip for the guys. They'll get a nice little meal up in the Hesperia area, as Coach Carson said. But be sure to tune in on the NFHS network. If you can't make the trip, I believe Johnny Bollinger will be on the call. I will be there giving you updates on social media, on the Charge to Keep Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter accounts. Maybe I'll throw in some live video, but for the most part, I'm gonna let those guys do the videoing, and I'll do some updates and things. So be sure to follow us on social media on Friday night. I will be there with plenty of updates. And then on Sunday, don't forget our recap show. I'll be joined by Coach Mark Carson, a player from the Rio Hondo team, and then probably a member of the alumni to get their thoughts on the game, the season. Try to just include a lot more people here throughout the program. And those episodes probably go, about 90 minutes or so, maybe less, hour 20 here and there, but not a bad way to kind of wrap up the weekend and have those podcasts out on Sunday mornings with Coach Carson and company. They're usually out around noon, but this podcast, the pregame show podcast, will always be out 24 hours before kickoff of that week's game. So tonight, Thursday at 7:00 for our Friday night kickoff up in Boron at 7:00. All right, guys, that's it for me. The Cares will be loading up the buses here soon. By the time this podcast is released, I'll probably be finishing up team dinner and ready to get a good night's sleep, and then hit the road early afternoon on Friday for their game against the Boron Bobcats. Once again, Rio Hondo back on the road, the first of 3 away games in a row here, weeks 3, 4, and 5. So they will be road weary, I'm sure, by the time they return to Care Park in about a month. But for now, it's time for the Cares to get back on the road again. We will see you in Boron on Friday night, guys. Can't wait for a fun-filled matchup. The 2-1 Boron Bobcats hosting the Rio Hondo Prep Cares. Until Sunday, guys, enjoy the game. We will talk to you then.